Well, this video is going to start the same way a lot of my videos start. That is with the line, well, I was at the thrift store again. This is a Dell Dimension 4600. I picked this up for all of, what was it, $10. I intend to use this as a somewhat of both an XP compatibility machine, just kind of something to run older software on, and potentially also as a video capture unit for capturing various mostly analog standard def sources using capture hardware that does not work right in newer versions of Windows, because, well, that's all I can get my hands on for cheap. It's got a, I believe it's a 2.8 gigahertz Pentium 4 in it. According to, I looked up the service tag earlier, I believe that's what it said. 512 megabytes of DDR RAM, and, well, yeah, I mean, for a machine that's dated, I believe, 2003, it's pretty nice, at least from what I've seen so far. Has a floppy drive in it, that's always handy. 2 CD drives, one of them DVD, the other one CD writer. Might put a DVD writer in here at some point. Flip it around here, it has an XP Pro key on it. I'm not going to stop there long enough for you to read that. So, on the back we got the full complement of legacy ports and whatnot. This is I guess what some might call, and by some I mean UXW Bill and people, what they might call a real computer. The onboard audio is blanked out because it is equipped with a Sound Blaster Live card, which is always interesting. I'll have to see how that performs. Has a presumably 56K modem in it. But yeah, it's pretty much what's going on here. Let's flip this thing on its side and take a peek inside the case. Now this is a little bit funny the way this latch system works. It took me a moment to figure it out, as I'll admit I have not actually personally owned a Dell Dimension system before. So this is my first real experience with this. You have to pull this switch down, and then usually with another hand, but in this case I'm going to have to get a little creative. And we pop it open, and well, I think the first thing we all notice is dust. Lots of dust. So much so that I think this is even a not even a job for compressed air, but rather for the vacuum cleaner. So I think I'll be back in a moment after I bring the vacuum in here and clean this thing up. Okay, after pass from both the vacuum cleaner and compressed air, I have this thing looking somewhat acceptable, though not perfect. You can see that there's plenty of dust and marks from where the vacuum cleaner brushed against things and things like that, but it's certainly a heck of a lot better than it was. So here's the inside of the machine. As you can see, we got our RAM back in here. It'd be nice if I could get myself out of the shadow so you can all see that. RAM's back in there. Looks like we have 2 slots populated of 4. So expanding this to perhaps a gig or more ought to be fairly simple. The CPU is under this whole big thing that is a pain to open. So you'll just have to trust me on that. I got it open when I was cleaning things out, but now I can't recall how I did. But yeah, you get the idea basically. Down here you got the sound card, which has its internal inputs here, which, depending on what capture card I might put in here, I might actually need these. Then you got the modem, which is almost certainly a soft modem, or as some might call it, a Win modem, due to their nature of usually only working under Windows. Over here, you got the hard drive behind this whole thing. It is old enough that it is an IDE hard drive. Supposedly it is an 80 gig drive. I haven't checked to see if that's actually the drive that's still in here, but supposedly shipped with an 80 gig drive. judging by the fact that there was that much dust in here, I suspect this has not been touched a whole lot since it was shipped. We do have an Agp slot on the board. It's this green one right here. Probably use that to install a nicer graphics card, hopefully one with a TV out on it, so I can do such silly things as record stereo dust particles live streaming shows onto VHS. Some of you who read the forum might know what particular incident I'm referencing there. For those who don't, it had to do with a particular episode of UXW Bill's live streaming show, Don't Watch This, where he had posted in the forum announcing that it would happen later that day, and Weasel2HTM commented saying something along the lines of, "I hope somebody can hook a VCR to their computer and set up timer record." He was actually trying to hint to UXW Bill that he should pull the archives from Vaughn Live, but I decided I had to be a little bit silly and take that quite literally, and I found an old laptop with TV out and a VCR and actually recorded the show to VHS. And in fact, I think I have the tape here somewhere. Yes, I do. Yep, I did in fact record the tape to VHS, record the show rather to VHS, with a little bit of messing around partway through when a VCR crapped out and had to switch to another one. But besides that, back to the topic at hand. Maybe I'll actually set up a more permanent setup for such such trickery as that. Such pointless but silly and interesting attempts at interestingness. I don't know where I was going with that. But anyway, so that's what we got in this machine. It's a relatively basic setup. I mean, it does have the upgraded sound card, but relatively basic, but still decently spec'd for 2003. So ought to do quite nicely once I get a fresh copy of Windows XP on here, and then probably do the POS Ready 2009 updates hack thing on here, because I've been wanting to try that on a machine, but I just haven't had any XP machines left over to try it with until now. So, pop that back on, and let me try and find a spot to hook this up, and we'll do a little run up here. Okay, so I got everything basically wired up here. I just have to plug the power cable into the computer. Oddly enough, although I normally have one handy, I was not able to find a PS2 keyboard or mouse. So it looks like I'm going with USB, and we'll see how happy this machine is about that. And if it does work nicely, that will be good to know, because I have a USB KVM switch back here somewhere. It would be nice to be able to hook this up to that. So, without further ado, let's plug in the power. Let's see here, which way does this thing go? Hard to see. There we go. And it powers itself on, which probably means the CMOS battery is no good. Yep. Invalid configuration information. So I'll have to replace the CMOS battery in this. That's not too big a deal though. We'll see how happy it is about performing automatic ID configuration. But at least it boots up. We're getting somewhere. It's relatively quiet, so that's nice. Time of day now. You could hear the beeper in there, just barely. It's pretty quiet. Jump into setup here. Oh, we have this setup utility. And we have a setup password. Which is interesting, because I thought the thing got reset. Well, we'll see what we can do here. Might have to pop the thing open and look for a reset jumper. But let's see what we got in here. We do in fact have a 2.8 gigahertz Pentium 4. BIOS version A10. I'm not sure if that's the most recent or not. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if it isn't, given this machine's condition. Let's see what we got. The floppy drive is at least programmed in right. It says something about SATA. I'm not sure. I didn't see any SATA connectors on the board, but if there are some in there, I might have to have some fun swapping the hard drive out. Primary master drive, hard drive. Indeed, 80 gigabytes. So, does look like it has its original hardware in here. What else do we got? Memory information. 512 megabytes DDR, as I suspected. Yep. But yeah. So we'll just go ahead and try to reset the time and date, and try and get this thing to boot up and see if there's anything on it, see if the hard drive's still good, anything like that. So I'll be back in a second. Okay, I went ahead and swapped the CMOS battery and cleared the password, and we now have the time and date set correctly. So everything else seems to be at sane values, so we will go ahead and save changes and exit. Let's see what this machine does here. And it does still have a copy of Windows XP on it. The hard drive isn't making any funny noises or anything, so that's good too. Drive that's in here may be usable. Speaking of hard drives, I looked on the board. There are in fact SATA connectors there. So, as soon as if I can figure out where to get, I think there's a special adapter you need to get SATA power off the power supply on the power supplies on these things. So if I can locate that adapter, or locate a SATA hard drive that'll take a Molex connector as well as the SATA power connector. I think I have one of those floating around somewhere. If I can locate that, then maybe I will upgrade this thing to a SATA hard drive. So now I guess this is just booting up. And we just get the usual stuff on here. Looks like, oh, that's always great. Mouse hasn't installed yet. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, as you probably noticed, the USB keyboard does work in the BIOS. So that is always handy. But yeah, it looks like it's just a computer with a bunch of random software installed on it. It's got Word, QuickTime. I'm not sure what Eraser is. Not sure if it was supposed to be something that got rid of personally identifying information from the machine. It has AVG 2012, interestingly. So apparently this machine was used up until then. Quite the life for a machine if this thing originally shipped in 2003, although the clock in the BIOS reset to 2004, which is kind of interesting. Because according when I looked up the service tag on Dell's website, it said the machine originally shipped in 2003. So I don't know. Still have not gotten the mouse working. Looks like it's just a typical XP installation that's gotten slow and annoying. Got Wise Disk Cleaner, Wise Registry Cleaner. Not sure what the legitimacy of those may be. Because a lot of programs like that get packed in with junkware. Or rather, they are the junkware. They are junkware that's packed in with other things. Looks like somebody selected to have an extra large taskbar. There's Windows complaining that AVG is out of date. Oh, no firewall's turned on. How nice. Well, we don't have a network connection right now, so what's the big deal? Let's see if I can select that window with the keyboard. Uh-oh, my camera's indicating low battery. Okay. Well, either way, this thing's just being slow. I'm going to blast the thing anyway, just to and get a fresh copy of Windows on here. So yeah, thank you all for watching, and maybe there will even be a follow-up video when I have this thing set up in its final location. But yeah, definitely well worth the $10.